Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the August 21st Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Our first order of business is to have an invocation by our County Manager, Mr. David Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Audience, if you will, please pray with me. Dear Lord, as we begin this meeting, we pray that you will be with the Commissioners as they go about their work. Help them to have wisdom and compassion. Bless the men and women of our armed forces. We especially pray for the 10 United States Navy sailors who are missing and the many who are injured aboard the USS John S. McCain. Please be with the rescue crews and keep them safe during their search. Lord, be with our children as they return to school and with the teachers who will guide them. Now, with deep respect for the faith, traditions, and beliefs of those gathered here tonight, please hear us in a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton. Will you lead us in the pledge, sir?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton. I'd like to welcome our elected officials. Sheriff Miller, thank you for being here, sir, for keeping us safe and coming to all of our meetings. We ask that all in attendance please set your cell phones to silent or vibrate mode. The board offers two public speaking opportunities to speak during the meeting. Comments during the first public comment period should be limited to 3 minutes each and must be directly issue-oriented with the agenda items for this particular meeting. The second public comment period is at the end of the meeting and may be on any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners has control. During the second public comment period, citizens can address the board for up to 5 minutes each. Citizen speakers will be acknowledged in the order in which they signed up to speak and will address all comments to the board as a whole and not one individual commissioner. Speakers will address the board from the speaker's podium at the front of the room and will begin their remarks by stating their name and their address. Discussion between speakers and members of the audience will not be allowed. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. Speakers are expected to be civil in their language and presentation. Any comments where the primary purpose is to promote a business or a candidacy shall not be allowed. In accordance with the board's adopted rules and procedures, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner's comment period at the end of the agenda. No other items being considered separately, a motion to adopt the meeting agenda is in order.
Move to adopt the agenda.
And a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor of adopting the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carried. Approval of the items on the consent agenda. Any board member with questions or concern about any agenda item can identify the item, which will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately towards the end of the meeting. If any item is identified, no vote is necessary to move it to the for separate consideration. Now we'll ask for a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are we already at the public comment section, Mr. Cotton? Anyone signed up, sir?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Kevin Leonard, Executive Director for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, has signed up. Mr. Leonard.
I understand I'm supposed to move over there in a moment, but if I may,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to be on your agenda to make a presentation. On behalf of your association, we thank you all for your support of your association and your public service. We at the association understand what it means to be a county commissioner. And the fact that you have put yourself in front of the public and you are willing to give your time and effort and your public service, we're here to say thank you for that. And we want you to know that we are here for you in Raleigh. And anytime you need anything else, you let us know. I also would like to say welcome to your chairman, who's going to be serving on the board this year as the district representative. That's not me. As the district representative for this district of this part of the state. So you now have a board member on the North Carolina Association County Commissioners Board, and we welcome you, Mr. Chairman, to that board and to that service. We appreciate it. Just quickly, a little bit about your association. And so the folks in the audience or watching know a little bit about the association. Your association formed in 1908. We've been around a while. You probably know we spend a lot of time down at the General Assembly and in the halls of Congress on your behalf. But you may not know that we also have a research arm there. If you need county level research, please call us and let us know. We have a risk management division that helps counties service. We service the majority of the counties in the state with our risk management lines of pool insurance for you. And wanted to let you know that. Also, education and conferences, which we just finished our annual conference, and I know that some of you were able to attend the annual conference. We've been having that since 1908, so our 110th one in Durham County, and we appreciate your being there. The reason I'm here before you tonight, members of the board, is partly that education and conference component and the support that your association gives to leadership training. We support efforts through the School of Government and through our own efforts at the association and through your efforts, and that's the thing I really want to stress. We thank you for what I'm getting ready to talk about, because what you are doing is supporting professional development and leadership training, not only for yourselves, but for your staff as well. And it's paying off, because I'm here to recognize one of your members of your staff for excellent service. At the City County Administration course, which is an annual course at the School of Government, which we help underwrite the cost of, as do you. And this year, as in every year, the association presents an award to the county member of the class who was selected by their peers, I might add. Their peers voted on selecting them as sort of the top person in class. And if you don't know about the City County Administration course, it's a year-long program at the School of Government. It's a week, so it's a time commitment for a staff person student to go. Takes it out of your rotation. So again, thank you for your willingness and support to do that. And they go up there, and they're with about 100 other colleagues from across the state, from sheriff's departments, deputies, to IT professionals, to managers, you name it, they're there, department level heads, and it's to advance their career. So every year, the association presents the Edwin M. Gill Award to a deserving student completing the county administration course. Now, the award was first given in 1965, so there's a long history about this award and this class. And it's a memorial to Edwin M. Gill, who served as chairman of the Local Government Commission and the state treasurer from 1953 to 1978. And it is since I started as the executive director, started this tradition of presenting this award in the county of the winner, which I think is great, because it gets us out of Raleigh, first of all, which is probably one of the best things for us, to see you and to tell you how much we appreciate all you did to make this happen, and it's really paid off. So it's my honor, and I'm going to step over here to have a photograph. Sarah McGilsky is with me. She's our Chief Communications Officer, and she's going to take a photograph with Mr. Glenn Hastet, your ITS Director, who just did an outstanding job this year, was recognized by his classmates, which, by the way, several of the classmates came from surrounding counties to see this tonight. That's how much they think of your ITS Director. So I'd like to present this and say thank you to you and thank you to Glenn. So if Glenn, could you step forward?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, is it okay for him to see?
He's never lost for words.
So I'm sure I know there are other graduates of this program in the room. I think we had the best class of all, and I can recognize several of the members in the class, and really to be honored with this award is very humbling, considering the level of expertise that we had in the class. It was really outstanding, and really had a great class. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin, for coming, and it was a little bit out of the ordinary and out of the norm for the presentation, but we wanted it to be a surprise for Glenn, and I don't know if he probably, knowing him, he probably knew all about it, but anyway, congratulations to Glenn, and I think there's going to be some other items coming up with your name on it tonight also, so we wanted this to be something that you maybe didn't know about, so that's the reason we had it outside of our norm. Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else, sir? Okay, we'll move on with presentations. Onslow Hospital Authority presentation, Dr. Penny Burlingame Deal.
Good evening. So Commissioners Bright, Buchanan, Bennett, Knapp, Price, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak on one of our favorite topics of discussion, that would be Onslow Memorial Hospital. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Onslow County Hospital Authority Board of Directors, our hospital leadership, our staff, our providers, all who provide unfailing support for the many initiatives that we're going to talk about tonight. I'd like to start by sharing with you a few of those initiatives, not in any particular order, and if there is anything that I go over or don't go over, fail to go over, that you want additional information on, please interject and I'll make sure I give additional detail. Onslow Memorial Hospital is a quality organization. We're surveyed constantly, and each successful survey demonstrates to the community that we are a safe, quality organization that believes in excellence. We've had a successful Joint Commission survey, intercycle monitoring, with the surveyor actually stating to us that she would come to Onslow Memorial Hospital. She would bring her family to Onslow Memorial Hospital. That's quite a compliment. We have 5 consecutive scores of A through Leapfrog. We have a successful College of American Pathology survey, Commission on Cancer Accreditation, Center of Excellence for our Wound Care Clinic, patient-centered medical home status for our internal medicine and primary care clinic, an approved Medicare Shared Savings Plan application that resulted in the development of our accountable care organization, Onslow Partners in Care. We have state-of-the-art equipment and technology, not the least of which is a silent scan MRI, 64-slice CT, 3D mammography, all of which result in better resolution and therefore earlier detection of disease. But the greatest development by far this past year, in my opinion, was our strategic plan. In concert with the strategic plan, we completed a consumer perception survey. We followed that up with focus groups that included patients, obviously, both from the emergency department and from inpatient side, focus groups that included our employees and staff members, and focus groups that included our providers. mostly to determine what the derivation of that perception was that was identified in the perception survey. This actual initiative may in fact result in a rebranding process. With things like a name change, logo change, change in mission, vision, and culture statements. But this likely won't happen if it does happen until after March 2018. The key here is to make sure that we don't just change the name. We don't make it look pretty. We actually have to have some tangible initiatives tied to the name change and the rebranding process. Thought you might be interested in a few key statistics. Overall, while the volumes that you see here, both for admissions, our emergency department births, et cetera, they look impressive, I will tell you that they have declined. Somewhere between 9 to 11%. That's sobering for us. It actually isn't entirely surprising, as we anticipated there would be some volume decrease as we transitioned from inpatient volumes to outpatient volumes through the Affordable Care Act. That was one of the pushes that the Affordable Care Act wanted to see happen, and it's happening. What we've learned is that collaboration is key to meaningful healthcare in our community. With more collaboration, we have more efficiencies, more population health management, ultimately resulting in a healthier community, and that's what we all strive for. Community outreach is also key to healthcare education, and therefore, to a certain extent, we may be victims of our own success. We're keeping them out of the hospital because their health is better, and that's what we strive for. Finally, another sobering statistic that you can see on the screen is that we have provided almost $53 million this past year in uncompensated care and support of our community. As we look at the future of OMH, there are some noteworthy items. First, our population is growing, with the largest age cohort being in the greater than 65 population, 65 years. Our market share is currently 47.4%, representing both good and bad news. The bad news being that we only have 47.4% of the market, which means that about 53% of our community is going elsewhere for care. The good news is we can bring them back. I believe it is a huge disservice to the citizens of Onslow County to obtain health care 60 or 70 miles away. When they are at their most vulnerable, they should be able to stay within their community so that their families have immediate access to them and they're home. Another reason why it's so important to collaborate with other entities in the community. So what are we doing? Well, we're recruiting in the following areas. ENT. We will have a new ENT physician joining us in October of this year, just a few months. Urology, general surgery, we have 2 additional general surgeons coming. Internal medicine and family practice. However, this is where the collaboration becomes important. It'd be great if each of the other entities that you see listed here, Carolina East Healthcare, Vidant, New Hanover Regional, Wilmington Health, they all have entities, medical office buildings here within our community. It would be great if the other entities had admitting privileges at Onslow Memorial Hospital to keep patients and their families close to home. So, in fact, patients can request, if they'd like to, that they be admitted at Onslow because we have a hospitalist program, and that hospitalist program is designed to provide inpatient management for care. So they actually can get around having the admitting privileges, although we would like them to, the other entities. But that would allow for Onslow County community members to be treated at Onslow Memorial Hospital. Now, for the future, so we focused on the strategic plan, where we've been this past year, where we'd like to go, but let's look at the strategic plan in particular. Through the leadership and direction of our Onslow County Hospital Authority Board and our strategy work group of our board, we've identified 5 priorities, truly 6, because 1 is equally important in what we need to address. And the first one, 1A, is recognition that the emergency department is the face of the hospital. And we want to make sure that we address the emergency department, provide a complete and thorough review, which we've actually already started, and make some revisions so that our emergency department experience for our patients in the community is one of the best that they can have. 1B is interventional cardiology care program development. We've already started that too. Right now, we are in the process of a full cardiac cath lab replacement. It's anticipated that that will be completed and the program up and running by January 2018. So it's right around the corner, folks. 2 is strategic review of pricing. As I identified, we have other entities in the community. They have medical office buildings. We need to make sure that we, to the extent that we can, remain competitive with pricing. 3, service line growth. We have a wonderful maternal child service, as well as an oncology service here. Again, for oncology, it treats the most vulnerable population. It'd be a great thing to add additional resources to those 2 service lines in order to bolster the service line. 4, employed physician model and performance. One of the partners that you saw mentioned on the other slide was Carolina East Health System. They have about a 65 to 70 employed physician group. We want to learn from what they've done and emulate some of their processes. And 5th, which is my personal favorite, reinvest in staff. Pay and benefits, yes, but other things too. For example, tuition assistance, some simple things that just make them happy, for example, T-shirt Fridays. But the last priority is based on the premise that it's difficult to care for others when you don't feel valued and cared for. We have a new ad campaign right now showcasing the pride that the staff feel for their hospital. This is our hospital and our community. We care for each other. Be prepared to see more pride points built around ownership of our hospital. In a perfect future world, every member of the community would feel the same pride for their hospital that we all feel. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with all of you. I'm not going to outstay my welcome here, and eternally grateful for the support that the county commissioners have provided over the years. So thank you, and do you have any questions for me?
I get the electronic version of the paper, and yesterday on Sunday's electronic edition, we had 54 pages of medical facilities for the eastern region.
The ENC medical insert.
And we were featured, Onslow was featured, they had a good feature about you and your background, and then they had, I think, a feature with Dr. Joslovich and his practice that over on Memorial, Doctors Park Drive now. But
Yes, sir.
it seems like that we have all of these outside agencies that's coming in. There's nothing we can do about those outside agencies. And the chairman of the Hospital Authority Board and I have had a conversation about that. And I think you hit on one of the things here about being competitive. So what is a plan for being competitive? Because we can't tell them to leave town, so we're going to have to be competitive with those.
I think the plan is twofold, Mr. Bright. I think the first is, as we talked about in one of the strategic priorities, number 2, which is strategic review of pricing. So that's one way, because the medical office buildings and the other entities that are here right now are largely looking at how they can, just like everybody else is, I don't fault them for it, but they want to maintain a revenue stream. So we need to be competitive to the extent that we can. So that's the first piece. Let's look at strategic pricing. The second piece, though, is I'm a firm believer in regional healthcare, and I think that there are ways to collaborate with these folks that allows for us to be partners rather than working against each other.
What's the plan? I noticed you said that there was some plans and some talks about maybe partnering with other larger hospital agencies. When are we going to get to that point where we make that move and partner with them? Because there's some things that they do that we don't do here, and maybe there's some things that we do that they don't do. But a lot of our customers, our paying customers, are leaving and going to
elsewhere. Yes, sir.
outside agencies. And our hospital is just like our schools. It's a big economic engine driver for us, and we have to do everything we can to make sure that our hospital, our community hospital, stays viable and competitive and back in the stay in the black. I did see what was it, $52 million?
$53 million in uncompensated care last year.
That is a tremendous hit. I don't think Onslow County could take a hit like that.
Yes, sir.
As far as our government, if we had a $52 million hole in our budget that we couldn't collect for,
Well, in spite of the Affordable Care Act changes, because, well, one of the reasons, because North Carolina isn't a Medicaid expansion state, we still have a population of uninsured people. And so self-pay, which really equates to uninsured, is, I believe, 9.4%. So, that has to, we still see folks whether they can pay us or not. That's our mission.
And that was one reason I had invited you and the hospital board and board members and anybody else to come to this for this particular forum and venue, to let people know what we're doing and let people know that we're working on it and what we're doing and where we've been and where we're trying to go. So I appreciate you coming tonight and sharing that with us. I'm looking forward to you coming back and telling us that we've partnered with whatever organization
Well,
that's
and we have, because back to your earlier question, we've actually, another element to the strategic plan was to have a memorandum of understanding with Carolina East. So the 1B that you saw, interventional cardiology, is actually being done in partnership with Carolina East right now. So Carolina East cardiologists will be here helping us to build that program.
I was a member of the Hospital Authority Board some time back, and I know exactly what our hospital is facing, and some of the issues with recruiting and how much the physicians, it's just a continuous recruiting process, and it costs a lot of money to get a physician here and to get a physician to stay here and be a good partner with the hospital and our community. Does any of the other board members have any questions or any concerns? Dr. Deal would be glad to answer them for you.
I do. I'm wondering how that $52.7 million, how does that compare to prior years? Is that on the increase, or is that?
It's a little bit of an increase. It's about the same, though, roughly, and it's a little bit of an increase because we're doing a better job of capturing it. We have some programs in place right now that actually gets patients in the pipeline sooner for potential Medicaid or Medicare benefits, and before they're eligible, we can put them in a care credit financial assistance program that allows us to capture it as uncompensated care. So we're doing a better job of that simply because of the programs we put in place to deal with that.
I have a few questions, Jack. The Carolina East, the document's been signed and everything, Penny, for that? Because, before, we went through the same process and it fell through. I mean, it didn't go anyplace. And my other question would be is, when will we see the audit?
The audit is going to be September 6th. We'll be here September 6th for the audit. Thank you for that question.
We usually see it this time of year, and I was just wondering when we would see the audit.
Yes, actually, we're a little bit behind schedule, and we apologize for that, but we wanted to make sure that it was clean when you saw it. So, but that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it is, as part of the strategic plan, we entered into a memorandum of understanding with Carolina East. That doesn't have anything tied to it except that we've made a formalized statement that says we're going to build programs together structured around professional service agreements. So it just kind of declares that we'll partner with them in ways that make sense.
Which one of the doctors are we dealing with right now? The negotiations, I should say, with Carolina East, who are you dealing with? Is it Dr. Taranecki? Is he involved at all?
He is not included. The only physicians that we're actually structuring that professional service agreement right now is cardiology.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha.
Is the radiation oncology, that particular facet of the hospital, is it, I had heard that we had some problems with the linear accelerator and it wasn't, one time was not functioning and we were losing some patients. I know that was a big draw.
Sure. Onslow Radiation Oncology is, well, apart from the fact that it's absolutely necessary for any fully functioning cancer program, and it's a great service to provide to our community because, again, think about cancer patients who have to travel outside of our immediate area to get treatments. That's terrible, and I know that firsthand. But I'll say this. Occasionally, the linear accelerator does go down, and you have downtime associated with it, but we try to adjust the schedules. It hasn't been anything inordinate compared to what you would expect. There hasn't been an incredible amount of downtime.
Well, before we put that particular part of Onslow at Onslow Memorial, like I know you may have been, but I was going through that with a family member, and
Yes, sir.
when we didn't have it then, and I was taking that particular person to New Bern, to that facility, and about 3/4 of the people that were in the lobby, I knew there were people
From
from here.
Jacksonville.
So to keep those people off of the road, and when we opened that facility, I was really pleased to see that particular part of the hospital be up and running and functional for our people, so they wouldn't, well, one, so they wouldn't have to travel, and another, so we actually would take advantage of that business also. So the other thing about strategic review of pricing, how are we going to adjust that like the other clinics, the outline, not our clinics, but the clinics that's moving in from outside? Are we going to be competitive with those clinics?
Well, that's what we're trying to do. The other entities in the community that have medical office buildings, and again, I don't fault them, they're a business, but they have medical office buildings here in the community with everything under one roof. So it's a matter of convenience, but it's also they're trying to sustain themselves as well. You heard me say that the population is growing. Other entities recognize that too.
Yeah.
So when I say we look at strategic pricing, we look at it strategic pricing from the outpatient perspective in order to perhaps adjust the prices to the extent that we can to be more competitive with the other entities.
Price matching?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That would be I don't know if that could happen, but that would be something to really look at.
Can I ask another question about your emergency department review and revision?
Yeah.
We just built an emergency department.
Yeah, it's
right,
not
a
bricks
few
and
years
mortar.
ago?
We're not talking about the facility. We're actually talking about the process. We have historically had longer wait times than we'd prefer. A lot of the patient satisfaction surveys that come out indicate that people aren't really necessarily happy with those wait times and how long it takes to get to the back, how long it takes to see a provider. So we're really looking at the process to see where we can improve it. There's plenty of opportunity there. We got right staff in place, though. We're going to make it happen.
I'm interested in, I don't know how you get people to go to the hospital here anymore. I mean, it seems like everything's controlled by the insurance companies.
A lot of it is.
When I had an issue a year ago and had to have some surgery, they never gave me a choice. I would much prefer to stay here in Onslow, but,
Right.
you know, the doctor said, well, the surgeon's in Wilmington, so get in your car and go to Wilmington. It's not like I felt like I had a choice, so I don't know.
A patient has a right to express their interest as to where they'd like to receive care, but you're absolutely right. In network, out of network, that's all going to factor into the decision-making about where you ultimately want to go.
Yeah.
I just want to say something real quick. I'm hearing a lot of things, and there's a lot of questions, but I think what needs to be done, I want to publicly congratulate you, because I have been the victim of that emergency room with my father, my son, throughout all these years, and I got to tell you, that emergency room has tremendously improved. They take care of my father. He's a fall risk, and I just wanted to commend you for that. And I think the cooperative spirit that you exhibit is pretty evident, because you're part of our drug task force in terms of the opioid problem and the mental health crisis center. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you, because it's enjoyable to work with you. I know Commissioner Price feels the same way.
Thank you.
You always bring a lot of knowledge, a lot of things that we don't think about, questions that we don't think about to the committee. So I just want to say I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Paul, you have anything else? Thank you, Dr. Deal. We'll be contacting you and trying to work and find out help you with any solutions. And I think we have a meeting about our board members that's coming up
Yes, sir.
next few days. I don't know exactly when.
And
Thank
we'll
you
see
for
you back
coming.
here on September 6th.
Thank you for coming tonight, and good luck to you on getting these things done that you've put before us. And if there's anything this board can do to help you or help move it along, let us know.
I know you will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Cotton, Swansboro Historic Preservation Committee resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I will call on Dr. Rick Welton. He's going to read the proclamation and call on our GIS staff.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good evening. I'm Rick Welton, Swansboro Historic Preservation Commission. I'd like to add my accolades, if you will, to Mr. Glenn Hasted's department for helping us over the past year. He gave us the opportunity to work with two outstanding people that I'd like to read a resolution for, and greatly pleased with the expertise, perseverance, customer service that we received, and particularly the end product. So, may I read the proclamation, please? This is a resolution honoring the work and contribution. Come on, please, come on up here. I don't bite, or try not to. A resolution honoring the work and contributions of the Onslow County Geographic Information System Department on the Swansboro Historic District web-based mapping project. Whereas the Swansboro Historic Preservation Commission recognizes the efforts of Patricia Pike and Angelia Hagopian in developing the downtown Swansboro Historic Places interactive map, and whereas this valuable digital resource is an integral part of enabling tourists and citizens of Swansboro to study, recognize, and appreciate the important structures that make up the resources of our National Register Historic District, and whereas this digital mapping resource furthers the Swansboro Historic Preservation Commission's mission of preserving our significant historic assets, it now therefore be resolved that the Swansboro Historic Preservation Commission hereby expresses our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Patricia Pike and Angelia Hagopian for their talent, hours of labor, and their dedication to the task of preparing the downtown Swansboro Historic Places interactive map. Adopted 18 July 2017, Town of Swansboro Historic Preservation Commission. Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Welton. For the ones of you that don't know Dr. Rick Welton, he was past administrator of Base Naval Hospital, and him and his wife decided to settle here in Onslow County, and he's been very active in community services and community work, and congratulations to you, and thank you, sir, for being here for us. Proclamation, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'll read the proclamation into the record. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, proclamation, National Library Card Sign-Up Month, September 2017. Whereas throughout our nation's history, libraries have been recognized as an invaluable education tool, whether located in community buildings, schools, or other academic institutions. Libraries are an ideal way to share both the collected wisdom of the ages and recently acquired technical and scientific knowledge. And whereas at their local library, children as well as adults can find books and materials to meet their special needs and interests, whether reading for pleasure or studying for a purpose, a young scholar can discover a wealth of information and hours of enjoyment at the library. And whereas libraries continue to transform and expand their services in ways that meet the needs of the communities they serve, including making digital technology and information equally accessible to all, and whereas parents should introduce their children to their local library and encourage them to visit it often, they should ensure that the children sign up for a library card, and they should set a positive example by using their own. And whereas 41,000 residents in the County of Onslow have library cards for our public library system, whereas if knowledge can be considered the greatest of all riches, then a library card is a key to a lasting treasure. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners acknowledges the month of September as National Library Card Sign-Up Month in Onslow County and encourages all citizens to sign up for their own library card today, presented this 21st day of August 2017. The chairman will present the proclamation.
Did you miss me? Presenting this to Ms. Virginia Marsh. She is our new library director. Thank you, and not been with us that long, but libraries used to be, you go to the library and you check out a book and you read the book and you take it back. Now, it's a wide variety of things at our library. It's computer, internet, other movies, other things that you can check out and take advantage of at the library system. It's just people go there to apply for jobs and use the computers because a lot of people don't have home computers, and all of our jobs now is online applications, and they go to the library, I guess, to sign up for them. So congratulations, Ms. Virginia. I'd like to present that to you. Thank you, and I'm sure you got some words you'd like to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Bright and Commissioners, Mr. Cotton. Libraries are about access to information, whether it be for pleasure or entertainment. It's access to technology for applying for jobs. It's access to community where we can share in special days like today with the eclipse. And I want to thank the commissioners for recognizing that, and I welcome all the members of Onslow County to please stop by one of your branches, and we will get you set up with a library card and get you on your way to that access. Thank you.
Thank y'all for being here. Next, item number D, Digital Counties Award.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners. Yes, sir. We're pleased to be recognized as a Digital County Survey winner by the Government Technology News and Center for Digital Government. The Digital Counties Survey provides an annual measure for county performance and innovation using technology. As counties are constantly evolving in their efforts to advance, the survey has also evolved to assess and identify emerging best practices. In this 15th annual survey, the Center for, I don't know why I keep wanting to say senator, the Center for Digital Government, CDG, and the National Association of Counties were looking at counties nationwide to find those who align their technologies with county goals. The group was specifically looking for counties that worked to improve the interactive experience for citizens and others doing business with the county, to save tax dollars through newfound efficiencies, boost transparency, cybersecurity, and engagement, and innovation through unique and exciting projects. This is an extremely prestigious award that has thousands of applicants across the nation and is presented to the top 10 counties in 5 separate population groups. Onslow County was awarded 4th place in the nation for the 150,000 to 250,000 population category. Representatives of the Onslow County Information Technology Services and Onslow County Geographical Information Systems will accept the award. The chairman requests that the entire board present this award.
Glenn, you did it again. It seems like about every week or just about every time we have a meeting, we have awards to give to employees. Sometimes it's financial awards, sometimes it's ITS, sometimes it's planning, sometimes it's the finance department getting awards. So we're continuously breaking records, and we're continually getting awards, and it's quite a prestigious thing to give our employees when that happens. And this is a staff with ITS. They do a tremendous job. Just saved us $22,000 on a program recently from last time on a program to give out alerts to citizens when we have hurricanes, storms, disasters, or any serious situation that comes up. We can get on the phone list, and not only does it save us money, it's better than the program we had. So thank you, sir.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate that, Glenn. And thank all the folks that work with Glenn and the ITS. I'm sure you want to say a few words.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Chairman. Actually, this award really is representative of the work the entire county is doing. There are the departments that did items that made up this award, specifically our solid waste with the solar farm, the financial department for their the awards that they get every year for transparency and reporting, our communications staff for their involvement in social media. So this is an award the entire county staff can be proud of, but it is primarily an ITS award, and it's really indicative of the hard work that the people behind me have done. And I'm really, really proud of them, and I'm really very happy that they get to be recognized with such a prestigious national award for all of their hard work. So if we could, one more round of applause for this great staff.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a somewhat larger agenda tonight, so we'll take about 5 minutes break. Back in 5 minutes. Called a meeting back to order from recess. Thank you for indulging with us. Item number 5, Mr. Cotton, is a public hearing for a rezoning issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Rezoning case CREZ TAC 2017 TAC 00001. I will call on Mr. Ben Warren, our Planning and Development Director, to give a staff introduction. Mr. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Commissioners. For your consideration this evening, we have a request to rezone property from residential R15 to a highway business conditional zoning district. Our property owner is Mr. Keith LeClaire, and the applicant is Arthur Armani on behalf of the Onslow Model Railroader Club. The parcel identification is 1115-45, and the parcel is approximately 1.37 acres. And based on the staff analysis and the information we have available, there are no environmental concerns with this property. The property is served by a 4-inch Onslow water line that runs along the front of the property, and sewer is currently not available. And you'll see in just a moment with the site plan that there is on-site septic proposed to serve the facility. Fire service is provided by the Piney Green Volunteer Fire Department with an ISO rating of 5, And the closest streets with the average annual daily traffic count is Piney Green Road, which has a 19,000 vehicle trips per day current count, with a 35,000 vehicle trip per day capacity with the recent improvements. So taking a look at the rezoning site, as we look at Piney Green Road just to the west, you can see at the very top of the page, Old 30 Road coming into Piney Green Road, and then coming south, we run into Swains Loop Road. As we take a look at the surrounding zoning in the area on Swains Loop Road and just north is predominantly R15 residential. To the south, west, and east of the site, we have some R8M, and that's primarily for some existing manufactured home parks in that area. And then out towards the Piney Green area, towards the Swains Loop, Piney Green intersection, we have some existing highway business. And looking at the existing aerial photo, you can see some of the manufactured home parks that wrap around the property to the west, south, and east. And then just to the north, we have some existing single-family residential. And you can barely see it, but just coming in on the top left of the aerial photo, we have some self-storage. That's part of that highway business. It's right there at the intersection of Piney Green Road and Swains Loop Road. As you look at, this is a look down Swains Loop Road from Piney Green Road. The rezoning site is just right there on your right, but you can see it's a pretty small, unmarked residential collector street. The property itself is currently wooded right now, and as you'll see from the site plan, it's the intent of the applicant to keep it in a mostly wooded state with the exception of the clearing that's necessary to construct their facility. So comparing the existing zoning district with that's proposed, the existing residential R15 is primarily established for single-family residential neighborhoods. It has a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet, a maximum density of 2 dwelling units per acre, and a list of permitted uses here that you would expect to see in a medium-density residential zoning district. As you look through the uses that we have here, I've underlined some that are at the bottom, and the reason for that, when we get to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the conditional highway business zoning district. But one thing about a conditional zoning district as opposed to a typical zoning district is that with a conditional zoning process, an applicant has the ability to go in and tailor some of the existing requirements for that zoning district to mitigate some of the potential adverse effects and to meet the needs of their project, whatever that proposed development might be. So in this particular case, the proposed highway business conditional zoning district carried over some of the permitted uses from the existing R15 zoning district. When we went to the planning board with the request, these uses that you see that are underlined are some that the community asked to be stricken from the list of allowed uses. And so that's why these are underlined. The ones that are not underlined were carried over, and you'll see that in the list of allowed uses for the proposed rezoning. So highway business conditional zoning. The difference here is that in a typical highway business, if we had a straight rezoning, then the applicant would come forward, they request the highway business, and any and all uses that are allowed in that district would be considered as potential uses for the property. With a conditional zoning district, the difference there is that this process is typically used in an area where we have potential for adverse effects, maybe a strategic highway corridor, it may be a sensitive area such as a neighborhood like we have here, or close proximity to another sensitive type use. And so what we do is we start with a base zoning district, and then we go in and we look at what the potential impacts may be on those sensitive areas, and we begin to place conditions on the property. We may take away uses that would have potential adverse effects. And so we create essentially a new customized zoning district that meets the needs of the applicant while also preserving the neighborhood character and the quality of life for those that surround the rezoning site. And so with this one, the applicant has proposed a specific set of uses that are proposed for the rezoning site. Now, the way this request came about was that the Onslow Model Railroader Club was looking for a site to relocate their club. They found a site right on the site that's under consideration, and whenever they came to the planning department to see if their use would be allowed, what they found was that the R15 zoning district would not allow that use. And so the request was to be able to identify a zoning district that would allow a civic, social, and fraternal organization. And we have 3 zoning districts. It would be the highway business, the office institutional, and the community business that allow that use. So in looking at those 3, we selected the highway business for 2 reasons. One, because as we saw on the zoning map, we already have highway business in that area. And two, because the highway business, when you look at the setback requirements and other things, is more stringent than the other two. And in fact, the highway business is more stringent than the existing R15 when you look at setback requirements and some of those things. The existing R15 has a 25-foot front setback, an 8-foot side, and a 15-foot rear setback, whereas the highway business that's proposed has a 45-foot front setback, a 20-foot side setback, and a 25-foot rear setback. So as we look at locating this in a potentially sensitive area, those increased setbacks certainly help protect those adjacent to the parcel. Now, the use that was intended, as I mentioned, was the civic, social, and fraternal organizations. So that use was included as the list of allowed uses. And then the remainder of the uses that you see here are the ones that were carried over from the existing R15. So these are the only uses that the applicant is proposing as potential uses for the property going forward. If at any time the applicant were to back out or to sell it or something were to happen and somebody else wanted to use the property for a different purpose, they would have to come back to the Board of Commissioners and go through the rezoning process again to modify the rezoning if it were approved tonight. Also, with the proposal, there's a list of rezoning conditions that accompany the rezoning request. The first is basically a buffer that any use other than a residential use would require a buffer between the two uses. Site design amendment that does not reduce the buffers will be considered a minor amendment, and this is basically a carryover from what's already in the zoning ordinance. But the purpose of this is that if the applicant goes on site and they begin site work and they find out that there's some site conditions that require them to shift the location of the building or parking or something like that, that would be considered a minor amendment that the planning department staff would approve and would not require an amendment by the Board of Commissioners. But if they were to change the buffers or the uses that are allowed or anything like that, it would have to come back through the rezoning process. Also, we have requirements for natural buffer areas, exterior lighting, making sure we don't have light pollution spilling over onto the adjacent parcels, driveway permit by NCDOT. One of the requests by the neighborhood was also that on-street parking not be allowed, so that condition was added. The neighborhood requested that there be no prefabricated metal buildings, so that condition has also been added. And then finally, the drainage plan certified by a civil engineer be submitted. There were some concerned citizens and neighbors that were concerned that the impervious surface might disrupt the drainage of the neighborhood, and so they requested that a drainage plan be prepared. I provided you a copy of that at your workstation before the meeting. That's something we just received. The applicant has engaged Parker & Associates to examine the drainage, for the surrounding area. And you do have a copy of that, and we'll get to that plan in just a moment. But basically, the drainage plan that they provided has certified that the impervious area that's being created by the rezoning would not have an adverse effect on the surrounding properties, that the drainage network that's in place is sufficient to handle the additional stormwater flow based off the impervious calculations. So this is the site plan that's proposed by the Model Railroader Club, and the site plan is also part of the rezoning. So as you can see, they are proposing a 45 by 90 building. They have 21 parking spaces, which is the minimum required by the Onslow County zoning ordinance. And then it's hard to read, but basically we have this delineating line right behind the septic field, and that area is to remain in a vegetated state. Also, the applicant is proposing some additional vegetation along the front of the property. Right now, what we have in place is a lot of scrub brush with a few trees spread throughout, but they're proposing to enhance that with some additional landscaping and screening to further enhance the appearance of the site from the road itself. And then the drainage plan. Looks a little busy, but basically you can see the drainage coming from Swains Loop Road through the property and then coming back in and essentially going to Little Northeast Creek. I said Parker & Associates has evaluated the drainage points, and they have determined that there is sufficient capacity to be able to handle any additional flow that's generated by this site. So when we look at the comprehensive plan, the future land use map, basically the area that's encompassing the rezoning site is identified as medium density residential. And if this were a straight rezoning, that would not be something that would be supported by the medium density residential category. But because this is a conditional zoning district, this is essentially a new zoning district that's created for this request. And so because of that, we have to look at the conditions and the way this is constructed as opposed to the highway business district. So when we look at the rezoning request itself and the conditions, based off the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, The restrictiveness of the conditions, the setbacks, and the proposed uses are in line with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. Basically, the comprehensive plan supports a local commercial activity center and other supporting uses to the surrounding neighborhood and residential areas, and that's exactly what's being proposed by the Model Railroader Club. Also, when we look at the existing zoning in the area, the restrictive uses and the conditions that are proposed, it would be considered reasonable and in the interest of the public based off the surrounding uses that are in place right now. And so based off of those factors, the Planning and Development staff do recommend approval of the rezoning, and the Planning Board also voted unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning at their meeting based upon the surrounding zoning, based upon the uses that are proposed, and based upon the conditions that were put in place to help mitigate any potential adverse effects from the rezoning itself. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Cotton for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. At this time, I will open the public hearing, and I will start by calling on the applicant to make an applicant statement. Anyone here representing? Thank you. If you would, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Arthur Armani, and my address is 105 Bedford Green. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Like I just said, my name is Arthur Armani, and I'm currently the president of the Onslow Model Railroaders. They covered a lot of detail of the site plan, but I want to give you a little bit of information about the club itself and what we do. The Onslow Model Railroader was established in 1994, so we've been around for a few years. We have leased a building for about 10 years, and the landlord decided he wanted to repurpose the building. So after we got a fairly decent start on a layout, we were shown the door. We are now in another building which is very inadequate for our needs, but it's what we could get at the time. And we are kind of getting the feeling that our time there is going to be limited too. So we want to move from the rented type situation to a place we can consider permanent, so we can be there for a long period of time. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with model railroading or what that looks like. Yes, we still play with trains. It's kind of the ongoing thing. But when you build a layout of the size that we're talking about, it is a life endeavor. It's a 10, 12-year process to get something established, and then layout is never actually done. So we're looking for a long-term permanent solution to our situation. We currently have about 20 members. We're looking to have a capacity of about 40 members. Out of the 6 model railroad clubs that are in the area of North Carolina to South Carolina, all the way out to Wilson, they usually run about 28 to 35 members. So we're looking for a capacity of 40 members. We have 2 scales that we operate on. We have an HO scale layout, 1 to 80, and we have an N scale, which is about half that size. Our membership is open to the general population. We currently have several older members who are retired, and it provides an opportunity for them to interact and keep engaged in hobbies and keep themselves active. We also have a pretty good showing of younger members in the 20-year age range, and that provides them opportunities to learn new skills and stuff, especially in the STEAM-orientated environment: science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So that's kind of what we focus on. Also, to kind of address, because this was mentioned before as a traffic situation, like I said, we're going to have about 40 members maximum. We meet 1 night a week, so traffic would be pretty much minimum. Do I have any questions from the board?
They'll reserve those after the public hearing is closed.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will make a call to the public, and first, those that have signed up, Ms. Dolores Fonte of 527 Swains Loop Road, Jacksonville.
Good evening. I'm Dolores Fonte, and I live at 527 Swains Loop Road, and that's directly across the street from the property that's being developed. And We are a small community, we're a quiet community. We have a very narrow road, we don't have sidewalks. So my first concern had to do with it being into a business-type atmosphere and the traffic increasing and so on. And because a lot of us walk our dogs in the street, you know, our strollers and so on. So we were concerned about the traffic increase. Parking, we've asked that it not be on the roadside because the road is extremely narrow. And so I would just ask if you're going to consider to approve the proposal that I don't know what the right terminology is, the things that we have asked for to be considered, that they truly be considered. I live directly across. I'm concerned or wondering about the lighting. I know that they want to meet once a week, once a month, but they'll have the option of being there whenever they want to be there. And so that's throughout the night. And again, I'm directly across the street from the facility. And so I would just ask that you would consider our proposal, our requests, as we are a small. I am actually one of the youngest members of the Swains Loop family. There are generations that have lived there for many, many years, and appreciate the area and appreciate Onslow County. So I appreciate your time and consideration in the proposal that we've put forward in our recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person who has signed up is Mr. David M. Crenshaw of 551 Swains Loop Road, Jacksonville.
I am David Crenshaw, 551 Swains Loop Road. Just for clarity purposes, I am a former county employee and also was on the zoning committee for the county, so I just want that read into the record. We are a very, very tight-knit community. We're on our third generation ownership of the same families. The road is only 0.2 of a mile long, exactly. I have walked every single place, every single bit of that land for years and years and have managed not to get bitten by a copperhead, so I'm doing pretty good. Like Dolores said, I'm not going to rehash her, but we had a couple of requests, and we really would like that you consider those requests and put those in place. And we would welcome this particular group. It's what happens after if they have to sell the property. That would be more of a concern to us. So we would really like to have where they would have to come back to the board and back to the members to get any additional rezoning. That's one of our major concerns, is what happens after this group, not this group. And the other thing was to make sure that it did resemble the no prefab metal buildings, which I understand they didn't plan to build anyway, but just to make sure that it doesn't look like another mini warehouse in the middle of right in the middle of our road, because it's about halfway. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, no one else has signed up. I will make one call to the audience.
If I could add one thing, that we've heard the concerns.
Could you approach the podium, please?
I talk loud enough. I didn't address this when I spoke, and I understand it's a concern of Dave's and them, and I just want to reassure the board. Our intent is to try to make it look as much like a train depot as we can within the functions of what we want to do, where it will be a very low-profile, house-like building. It's not going to be a metal building, so that's our intent for what we want our design to look like.
Yes, sir. If you would approach the podium, state your name and your address, please.
I'm Gene Hobson. I'm the Vice President of Onslow Model Railroaders. Live at 165 Nancy Drive. One of the things that we were trying to do is get young people involved in something other than iPhones, things like that. And we've got several junior members right now, and we'd like to expand on that also. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My name is Richard Butler. I live at 118 Greencrest Circle. From my past memory, which is not as good as some of you guys up there, I'm getting to the age to where I forget things, and they told me it happened when I turned 20. But the corner portion, you can't see me touching this screen here, but I don't have one of them red dots there, but the far right-hand corner that comes around, that comes here where this group of trees is at, I believe the board had discussed it, or the presentation had been before the, I said court, and I'm sorry about that, excuse me, the commissioners, was that that is a long piece of equipment, a 53-foot tractor trailer trying to get in there with some kind of equipment, a bulldozer being drug in there by a tractor trailer to bulldoze some of that stuff out and get it right. I know Mr. Jean personally. I do business with him, but that's just my concern, is that if this goes through, the DOT or the Jacksonville DOT, they need to make sure that that curb is wide enough where if a tractor trailer's coming in, it's not going to force somebody to back up to get him in there or her in there that's driving that vehicle. Thank you, and I have some more when we get later on. Appreciate it.
Make another call to the audience. Seeing no one approaching the podium, I will now close the public hearing and turn it over to the commissioners for discussion.
Mr. Warren, the staff has reviewed this proposal, and I noticed they had made a recommendation to approve it, and the planning board, they've made a recommendation, they've reviewed it and made a recommendation to approve it. Was anybody at the planning board meeting when this was being discussed?
Yes, sir. We had several residents from the neighborhood that were at the planning board meeting, and the last 3 of those conditions that were added following the planning board meeting in response to some of the requests by the residents. So the drainage plan, the metal building, and some of those different things were added as a result of some of the concerns of the residents.
In
Yes, sir.
reference to the whole document, it looks like to me, I've read everything here pretty solid, and it looks like to me that all their concerns have been addressed. Every one of their concerns have been addressed, and I would make a motion that it's approved.
We have a motion on the table for a second.
I'll second.
Second.
A motion and a
I
second.
got some more discussion, though.
Further discussion?
Yeah. Mr. Warren, could you explain what the process would be if they went out of business and the building became available for somebody else?
Yes, sir. As part of the rezoning conditions, the proposed uses, and the site plan are all adopted as part of the rezoning itself. So that runs with the property, not with the property owner. So if there was someone else that purchased the property 10 years down the road, they would be subject to the same conditions that the current applicant would be subject to. So if they wanted to come in with a different business other than one that's on that list of allowed uses, they would have to come back before the planning board and the board of commissioners to amend the rezoning to allow that, whatever that proposed use might be.
Seems that conditions that's on this particular one is really restrictive for what it's being rezoned for, and like this gentleman's concerned here, we don't know what's going to happen down the road. We just can't regulate what may happen 10 years from now.
Yes, sir. And the beauty of this process itself is that essentially the applicant only added one use. The other uses are carried over from the existing zoning that's in place right now, but they put additional controls on top of it, including the additional buffering, screening, setbacks, all these other controls that, if it were to stay at the same zoning we had right now, would not be in place.
I would like to ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to sound unintelligent about this, but I'm reading all of this and I understand it, but what it basically comes down to, based on the two parties here, we've got one that wants to put a railroad club in, which I understand, turning it into commercial property in a residential area, correct?
Yes, sir.
And are there any other businesses in that residential area?
At the end of Swains Loop, the intersection of Swains Loop and Piney Green, we have a self-storage facility that's in place.
I guess my concern is, first and foremost, the railroad club. I think it's very noble because, I mean, it's part of our history. I get that. Totally get that. I loved railroad. When I was a kid, my dad bought me a railroad set. I remember it. Tripped over it many times, but I actually enjoyed it. But I also understand your point in terms of a residential area there that's had folks there for a long time. So I'm kind of torn here as far as my decision is concerned, because I see the pros and cons of both sides. And I do have a concern about what if something happens to this particular business. Now, we can't predict it, and I understand that. But as I look at this picture, I guess, short of any other businesses there, it looks like a peaceful neighborhood, a peaceful area. You had generations of people there. So to be quite honest with you, I'm torn between this because I understand the heritage and what you guys want to do. And it's not like a nightclub is going in there. It's American heritage. So I just wanted to make sure I understand that we're taking a residential area and then we're commercializing it into a business parcel, correct?
Yes, sir. And one thing, if I may, that I would point out too, is that within the existing R15 residential zoning district, there are some uses such as community centers and other things that would be more of a high-impact use than the civic club that they're requesting. And if it were to stay the existing zoning right now, it would not have controls such as the light pollution, no parking on the street, those types of things. So it could have a potential more of a negative impact with some of the uses that are allowed in the existing zoning than that's being requested.
Say that last part again for me, please.
The controls that are being volunteered by the applicant ensure that we don't have on-street parking, that we don't have light pollution, that we're addressing the drainage and other issues. Without those controls, if someone else were to come in to build a community center or some other type of facility that's allowed under the current zoning, they could build whatever they wanted. They could build a metal building, they could park on the street, they could have other things because there are no controls in place. Those specific controls are volunteered as part of this rezoning.
So because it is a conditional zoning, the community has greater protection under that clause than they would otherwise. Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
I'd like to ask Mr. Armani a question.
Yes, sir.
How long has your organization been in existence?
Since 1994.
Will your train be open to the public?
We would probably have opportunities to have like an open house occasionally, but for the vast majority of the time, it will be open to the general public to become members of the club. And it'll be a member-driven organization. And
Do you expect that the whole 4,000 square feet will eventually be all trains?
I'm expecting half
train.
of it to be HO scale, 2,000 square feet. We set aside a little over 600 square feet for our N scale. The remaining area will be bathrooms. They're ADA compliant bathrooms, so they do consume quite a bit of space. And then we'll have a meeting room, a workshop, and a storage, a large storage area for whatever we're going to do. And to address if the club goes under, I'm going to have so much personally invested into this myself that if the club goes under, I'm probably going to turn half of it into my personal residence, and the other half will become my layout, and I'll have the largest layout on the East Coast of a single individual.
That'd be a good suggestion. I have a question, though. This building, and I'm not trying to belabor this, I'm trying to understand this.
Yes, sir.
This club, you're going to build a facility there. Now, you said the scale. What kind of, how big is that? You gave me some kind of scale. I have no idea what that means. I know model airplane scales.
That'll help you better understand what we're looking at. But HO scale is essentially 1 to 87. So 1 foot would equal 87 feet. More commonly known is O scale, which is 1 to 48, which is a typical, the model that you build, you buy at the store and you build, that's 1 to 48. We're about half that size. And then the N scale is about half that size.
So you're going to build a building, and you're going to put these scale models in there to run, correct?
Right.
And then you're going to be building extra railroad cars or whatever you're going to be building. So it's for the club members, right?
Right, it is for the club members, yes.
Well, again, I go back to the other question. Are you going to let like the neighbors and stuff walk in and view this, or?
The neighbors are more than invited to come. You gentlemen are more than invited to come and see it once we get it set up. And if you want to participate in what's going on, you're more than invited to become members.
Any further discussion? Any further questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to approve, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
I didn't get the number, Julie. I know we had 3.
4 to 1, I think.
4 to 1. 4 to 1, it's been approved.
Thank you. What's that?
B, section B, or I'm sorry, back to general rules, section 6A, amendments to waterway maintenance project and Discovery Garden. Mr. Cotton. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Each year, the county considers funding of capital projects from tourism funds that are restricted for economic development projects. This year, the county, during the budget process, approved $250,000 for the waterway maintenance project and $100,000 for the Discovery Gardens project. We respectfully request approval of the 2 project ordinance amendments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
Thank
Mr. Smith, Tax Administrator's report. The tax man.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. On your agenda tonight, we have our normal monthly request for approval of releases and refunds of taxes for June of 2017 and the tax collector's report for June of 2017. We also have a couple of additional items which are done on an annual basis, which are items 3, which is the annual settlement, and item 4, which is settlement of taxes for prior years and charged back to the collector. Basically, the statutes require, NC Statute 105-273 requires that after July 1st that the tax collector make a settlement to the governing board in order to be charged for the next tax levy. And part of that settlement would be a report of unpaid taxes as of June 30th of the preceding fiscal year, which those numbers we have in your forms there, 1.784 for 2016 real property taxes and $285,661.80 for unpaid personal property taxes. I am pleased to report that amount has been reduced by a little over $224,000 since we prepared the agenda. And looking at our collections trends, I did want to mention that briefly. Although our tax levy has increased by $2.4 million from fiscal year 14-15 to 16-17, the number of accounts and the dollar amount taxes due at the end of the fiscal year have decreased over that same period of time. Based on meetings earlier this year and discussion, we have directed our collection staff to work towards a more aggressive posture in using statutory collection remedies. And for the general public's benefit, those include things like wage garnishment, attachment of funds on deposit at banks, continue to our foreclosure program for real property, and accelerate the time frame before we'll start taking action on those, continuing to submit debts to the North Carolina Debt Set-Off Program. And also part of that discussion was shortening the amount of time that we would be willing to do payment arrangements with taxpayers to accelerate that to try to get more of it paid by the end of the fiscal year, with the ultimate goal increasing our collection percentage from the current rate of 97.88 up to 99% by the end of the fiscal year. The specific action requested is respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners consider approval of the releases and refunds for June 2017, the tax collector's report for June 2017, the annual settlement, and the settlement of taxes for prior years in accordance with NCGS 105-373. And one thing I did want to point out on the numbers that you have, item 3 lists the amount of taxes. These were 2016 real and personal taxes. Those amounts are also included in that number that's in item 4, the $5.7 million. Those are part of that because that charging back is for the past 10 fiscal years, which includes the 2016 year since we've moved into the 2017 year now. If I don't have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I don't have any questions. I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion, and need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, sir.
Home and Community Care Block Grant. Christine Kennett. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Bright, Vice Chairman Bennett, County Commissioners, County Manager Cotton. This evening, I'm presenting the Home and Community Care Block Grant. Onslow County Senior Services is the lead agency for the Home and Community Care Block Grant services in Onslow County. This grant, received annually from the Area Agency on Aging, provides funding for in-home services, adult daycare, transportation, and nutrition services. The total grant is $615,904 with a $68,433 local match, which will be met with existing senior services operational budget appropriation. No additional monies will be required. And I'm able to answer any questions you may have.
Motion to approve.
Motion, second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Application for state aid to public libraries, Miss Virginia March. Again.
Good evening, Chairman Bright, Vice Chairman Bennett, and Commissioners, and Mr. Cotton. Thank you for allowing me the time to present the application for state aid to public libraries for Onslow County Public Library. This application must be submitted annually to receive state aid from the state of North Carolina. The program is administered by the State Library of North Carolina. The money is distributed to public library systems based on a formula 50% as block grants and 50% as per capita income equalization grants. Onslow County Public Library expends its state aid on the purchase of library material, which includes books, DVDs, books on CD, music CDs, newspapers, magazines, along with electronic resources such as digital magazines, digital books, Encyclopedia Britannica Online, and Ancestry Plus. Although true numbers will not be available until the state budget is finalized and all applications for state aid to public libraries have been received and reviewed, the estimated state aid for Onslow County Public Library for fiscal year 17-18 is $222,284. We respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners authorize the Chair and County Manager to sign the state aid to public libraries application.
Approve, second.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
North Carolina Forest Service operational budget, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As you'll recall, this item was tabled from the July 17th Board of Commissioners meeting. On June 28th of this year, the North Carolina Forest Service contacted the city and requested funding at the 2016-2017 level, which is $150,000. Current year, it is $100,000 appropriation. there was additional information requested, and that had to do with the management of Hoffman Forest and the arrangement with Resource Management Services and the Forest Service. And information was received from Mr. Andy Meadows, the district forester, and he provided that of the $86,000 annually for the assistant ranger, $43,000 is provided by RMS. So it's a 50-50 match between the two entities, which is a unique arrangement in North Carolina. There is no other private-public partnership like that except here. So
I
I'd be-
would make the motion to approve it, David, and I want to thank you for answering my questions.
Yes, sir.
I got the answers that I was looking for, and I was just concerned, and I want to thank you for the work that you did and the staff to give me that information. I'll make a motion to approve it.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here again tonight from the U.S. Forestry
Thank you.
Service. And being patient with us. Sherry Slater, Contract Professional Service, Crisis Center.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We have before you tonight a contract for professional services for the Crisis Center renovation project. One of the Board of Commissioners' main goals for this budget year was to find a cost-effective means to bring a detox crisis center back to Onslow County. With the assistance of grant funding through the Dorothea Dix Foundation, Onslow County will be able to adequately renovate 2 existing county-owned facilities to serve as our crisis center. As required by North Carolina General Statute 143-64.31 for professional services contracts, a request for qualifications was issued by the Purchasing Department to select an architectural design firm for the Crisis Center renovation project. Smith Senate Architecture out of Raleigh, North Carolina, submitted a response to the RFQ. Smith Senate Architecture has worked with the county on several projects and has vast knowledge of both the city and the county's zoning and permitting requirements. Attached, you will find before you a contract for Smith Senate Architecture in the amount of $160,000 for the professional services related to the Crisis Center renovation project. We would request that you consider this contract, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Knapp, this is your project.
I just want to say something about this. I just can't say enough about David and Sherry for working on this. They're part of the task force as far as this project is concerned. They knew it was one of our goals, and they grabbed the bull by the horns. And I got to tell you, they stayed on this. They made this happen. David got contacted Raleigh, got us the funds, and I couldn't be more proud of this because if you haven't noticed, this is taking off. It's going to be a reality next year, and it took a lot of hard work. We have the funding that didn't cost the taxpayers. So, David, Sherry, thank you very much. I very much appreciate all your effort and dedication. Outstanding. So I'll make a move to approve.
I get it.
Yeah, you beat me to it. That's a second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Sherry, I want to thank you for the hard work, and one of the things I want to thank both you and David and staff for is not taking no for an answer. I mean, from outside sources, when we wanted to get it inspected, we had to call in the big guns, and the big guns came in and helped us out, and we were able to get it inspected so we could go ahead and go forward. I want to thank you and David for that because, and Senator Brown, I guess, was the one that helped us out the biggest in trying to get that building inspected so we could get how many beds we could have and whatnot. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. I also wanted to say I did thank Mr. Leonard and his staff tonight. They've also been very helpful in moving this process forward. So once again, good work done by your NCACC.
Absolutely.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Slater. Mr. Cotton, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The North Carolina Department of Public Safety partners with the Juvenile Crime Prevention Councils in each of the counties to galvanize community leaders, local and statewide, to reduce and prevent juvenile crime. JCPC board members are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners, and they meet monthly in each county. The following individual has expressed an interest in appointment and has provided a citizen participation application. The application is on file and has been certified by the clerk's office. Jacqueline Powers for the category of Business Community with a term expiring June 30th of 2018. It's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners appoint Ms. Jacqueline Powers, Business Community category, for a 2-year term expiring on June 30th of 2018.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Section B, Emergency Planning Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I'd ask for your patience. We have several members with specific categories that I'll read into the record. The Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, ratified in 1986, set forth the regulations for the creation of local emergency planning committees in Section 303. The goal of the LEPC, goals, are to coordinate hazardous materials planning, preparedness, response, and mitigation issues at the local level. The adopted bylaws of the Onslow County LEPC require that all appointments to the committees will be made by the Onslow County Board of Commissioners and approved by the North Carolina Emergency Response Commission. These appointees serve as the voting members of the LEPC. Membership attempts to be reflective of an array of agencies, including but not limited to emergency medical services, fire service, local government, facility representation, community organizations, emergency management, and other stakeholders. The following members with categories, all terms will be 2 years with terms expiring in June 2019. Jacob Carpenter, Citizen category, Roy Brendrell Jr., Transportation, William Brinkley, Facility Owner, Pamela Brown, Public Health, Norman Bryson, Emergency Management, Eric Carlson, Emergency Management Federal, Walter Doyle, Environmental Health, Riley Everslew, Media for the county, David Grovedahl, EMS, Joseph Hanks, Hazmat, Sean Hayes, Fire, Brian Kelly, Fire, Sean McGill, thank you. Law Enforcement, Stacy Miles, Emergency Management, Robert Myers, Transportation, David Oglesby, Law Enforcement, Greg Oliver, Facility Owner, Jeffrey Dusty Rhodes, Community Schools, Ray Silence, Communications, Andrew Smith, Hazardous Mitigation, Robert Voss, Transportation. Respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners consider approving the submitted names as voting members of the Onslow County Local Emergency Planning Committee. In addition, it is also requested that the Board of Commissioners waive the residency requirements for the following categorical applicants: Mr. Walter Doyle, Mr. Sean McGill, Mr. Robert Myers, Jr., and Mr. David Ogleby.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Cotton. Consent agenda, we didn't have anything that any of the commissioners removed to discuss at this particular point. So we're at item 9 now. Mr. Cotton with public comment.
Mr. Chairman, no one has signed up for the second public comment period.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, manager's comment.
I have no comments this evening. Thank you, sir.
Whoa.
Okay, well, item 11, commissioner's comment. Commissioner Buchanan.
Where do I start? I mean, I met with the new deputy county manager today. I'll get that right in just a second. And I think she heard from me several times about our employees, and I think she got a chance to see it tonight. Our employees are some of the best. Glenn, what your people have done, GIS and your side of the house, and like you said earlier, all the staff. I mean, I put any one of our employees up against anywhere in the nation. We have got some of the best employees, and I see it every day. I see it with our department heads, and I see it with all the employees, and I'm just so proud of all of you. And you've heard me say it many times before, but I stand behind what I say, and you're the best, all of you. And thank you for being here tonight. Chair?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Price?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Commissioner Buchanan said and congratulate our IT and GIS department for receiving that Digital Counties Award, number 4 in the nation. That's quite impressive, and that's something to be very proud of. I was also pleased to be able to go to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Convention, attended several seminars on topics, found out that some of the counties across the state share some of our similar issues. Especially with the opioid problem across the state. It's becoming like an epidemic proportions. And so, hearing that, kind of echoes some of our same problems, that we're not in that alone. Also, I was pleased to attend the Dixon Middle School ribbon cutting last week. I was impressed. That's going to be a showcase for Onslow County schools. It was very impressive. Can be a point of pride for the entire Dixon community. That several common areas for group projects and areas like that, it resembled, you had to feel more of a university type setting to me than it did a middle school. So, I was blown away by that. And so I was pleased to be a part of that. Also, a reminder that school starts next Monday, and so good luck to our teachers, our administrators, our administration staff, and our students as they kickstart another year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Commissioner Knapp.
I want to thank the Forest Service for being here, and I agree with Commissioner Buchanan for clarifying that for us, because we do think you're vital and necessary, so I appreciate that. I kind of want to make this a little bit, kind of downplay it. I think we make a lot of decisions up here, but I want to thank Julie for making the best decision tonight, for taking that break, because I think we all needed it, and we just didn't want to man up and say it. But thank you, Julie. A couple of these individuals went to this North Carolina County Commissioners Conference. Some of us, myself and Mr. Buchanan, couldn't go, but Chairman Bright is such a good leader that he brought us back toys. And I just wanted to show you what they got at this commissioner's facility. I don't know what this means. I've got an iPad fan. It really works, by the way. Oh, sure. I mean, so if you put it in your iPad, so I've got a couple of them if you guys want one. It really works. The other thing is, today was a lunar eclipse, right? And I'm surprised it's also National Moon Pie Day. I don't know if you all figured that out. And I want to thank Sherry. She went and got a box for me. So I want to hand these out. And there's plenty for all of you, too, but you get 3 because you eat a lot, Commissioner Price. So I just wanted to give the staff a moon pie in recognition of your hard work. I know you guys have eaten it, but don't be afraid, Royce. And if anybody else wants a moon, you get your share too, David. I have moon pies here because it is significant. And I don't know if y'all watched the lunar eclipse. It's amazing at work. I saw a bunch of people say the eclipse is going on, and everybody says, don't look up. And every one of our employees was looking up. So there may be an increase in the admission rate at the emergency room tonight. But I just want to thank the board for everything they've done, for working together. The staff, David, Brett, Julie, for putting the agenda together. We try to have a good time up here, but they really do the research, Sherry, to get the information that we need so that we can make the right decision, especially tonight when we had the decision about the budget. So I just want to thank everybody for that, and have a safe trip home, and hopefully we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Knapp. Vice Chair?
Yeah, I hate to correct you, but I believe it was a solar eclipse today. And I say that because I want to thank the County Library, Virginia, March, and the staff. I went to the library on Doris Avenue today, and I was amazed at how many people showed up to get those glasses. My estimate was somewhere around 1,000 people were there. It was amazing. They were lined up around the building to get glasses, but her and her staff handled it very well and kept the crowds under control and made everybody watch that 6-minute video about how to not get I don't know, I didn't get to watch it, so I don't know what it was about, but but I think they did a great job, and I appreciate what y'all did. It isn't, and I don't want to belabor it, but I do want to take a minute to thank everybody else, the IT staff, Glenn. I use that website almost every day, and it's compared to what it was 10 years ago, it's just phenomenal what we can do and information we can get now online that we don't have to make a phone call to try to find out. So I appreciate that. I also went to the NCACC conference and found it to be very informative, and I appreciate the opportunity to represent Onslow County at that. And the Dixon Middle School was wonderful opening. That's a great school. I'm glad we have those kind of facilities. And finally, I wanted to thank Ms. Fonte and Mr. Crenshaw, who aren't here anymore, but I appreciate them being here to express their concerns. I hope that we address their concerns. I felt like what the planning board and staff did address their concerns with the issue. I understand when something changes in your neighborhood that it's a concern for people. So I want them to know that we appreciate them being here and we appreciate their comments, and I hope we addressed them sufficiently. So thank you. Y'all have a safe trip home.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We had a report tonight from Onslow Memorial Hospital, and that community hospital, like every other community hospital, is very vital to the community. It's vital to economic development. So everything that we can do to support our hospital and keep it up and running and make it viable and keep it in the black, I think we need to do that, and keep that in mind when you're looking for medical treatment and facilities, to keep them in mind first before we have to try to go somewhere else. But I know a lot of times, depending on the situation, you don't have any choice. Like I think Vice Chair said, you get sent to other medical institutions for treatment and all, and that's something we don't have control over, but we do have choices sometimes, and I think we need to watch out for that. Congratulations, Glenn. Again, you got two separate recognitions tonight. One, I don't know if you knew about it or not, but it was here, and we did that sort of out of the ordinary for you. But we appreciate what you do, appreciate what the staff does. Your folks, whenever I call on them for anything, they Johnny on the spot, and they resolve issues most of the time right over the phone. And it's just good to have that type of capabilities within the county here. And there's other department heads. I could go on and name all of you. And, Ben, thank you for the good presentation tonight for the rezoning issue. I think it was very well prepared and very well presented. So I appreciate you doing that for us. As far as the eclipse today, that's right. Getting a moon pie now is right up there with like saying the horses are out and you need to go fix your fence. Well, we should have had this moon pie when we were looking at the eclipse, because that was part of the dessert. I mean, that was part of the national thing. So I think we should have had that a little bit before the eclipse instead of now. We won't have another one for 7 years, and I don't know if this one's going to last till then. But anyway, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for putting up with us. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. We are adjourned.